We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello, and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Vampirella vs. Reanimator, Issue 1. This is a mini-series from Dynamite Entertainment, written by Colin Bunn, art and colors by Blackie Shepard, letters by Taylor Esposito, edited by Matt Idelson, based on a story by Colin Bunn and Blackie Shepard. I have cover A, which was by Johnny Desjardins and Mohan. Now, Herbert West is trying to find ancient tomes to help him with his resurrection stuff, and he thinks he found one at this monastery. So the priests were a little unwilling to help him out, but thanks to his neon green formula, he's able to do a little something about that. Meanwhile, Vampirella is fighting in a fairly gory sequence while Herbert West is exploring an ancient temple of some sort. Now, he breaks into it, and inside is this mummified corpse of a woman whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce because it's a little out of my wheelhouse. But fortunately, a glamour was put on the doors because there is a crest there that looks shockingly similar to what's on Vampirella's underwear, or costume, whatever. And Herbert West does not seem to know quite what he's in for, but it looks like he has resurrected the Lady of Death, who looks a lot like a scantily clad Evil Lyn from Masters of the Universe. Now, the art is actually pretty good. I do like the artwork. It's solid. There's a few little quibbles I would have, but nothing major. What kind of disappointed me about this was the black and white of it. I like color comics for my $4. Indie books are black and white. That's how I grew up with it. That's how I always think of it. But it doesn't detract from the quality of the story. In fact, their use of red for blood really does kind of make it more effective. So what I started out not liking about it ended up working really well in it. Don't be dissuaded by the fact that it's in black and white. It actually does help the book quite a bit in many respects. Would I have liked it in color? Yes. But the way they did it, I see what they were going for, and it does work. Using red for blood, then grayscales, and a little bit of the injection fluid that he uses. It has this like yellow greenish glow. It's a very effective technique that surprised me because it doesn't always work when people try that. Sometimes they can't pull it off. So I was glad to see it worked out really well, and I'm looking forward to issue 2 because the story was a lot of fun, and the cover is great. I love that cover picture. So fantastic work all around. As I've said before, Colin Bunn is not a great superhero writer, but he is a good horror comic writer. Not always the best, but his stories are passable. He seems to really love the horror genre, and I think that really shines through in his writing. So the fact that he's writing this as a horror story is actually a very good thing here, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the next issue and where the story's going to go. So far, I'm really interested. I thought it was handled really well, and I'm going to recommend it. But that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Vampirella vs. Reanimator, Issue 2 from Dynamite Comics. Story by Colin Bunn and Blackie Shepard, written by Colin Bunn. Art and colors by Blackie Shepard. Letters by Taylor Esposito, edited by Matt Idelson. Now I have cover A, which is by Johnny Desjardins and Mohan. I like the cover. It's okay. I'm not a big fan of that style, but it's catchy. Makes you want to look into it a little more. Has nothing to do with the story though. Alright. So the Lady of Death has been awakened by Herbert West, but instead of reanimating her husband, she decides that since he has the power over life and death, she's going to keep Herbert around. And in the ensuing dispute, interesting conversation, let's say, he drops his syringe, but he has more of the reanimation solution, of course. And he seems kind of put off when she comes onto him, but we learn a little bit of history here about where this woman came from. I can't pronounce her name, so I'm not even going to try. It is really complicated. So we learned that Vampirella is the one that put her down last time, and since there were people in Draculon that were followers of this woman, Vampirella hid her body in this ancient ruins in like South America somewhere on Earth, and she didn't tell anyone where she put it. Well, Herbert West is an idiot and he found it, so obviously there's some shenanigans going on there. Well, Herbert West decides to actually help this lady and create some abomination giant spiders made out of people. We are left with a bit of a cliffhanger cliffhanger ending, and it just really ends abruptly. Like, it doesn't say to be continued or anything. It just ends. And I find that very frustrating. This was clearly written as a graphic novel that's broken down into 4 parts. And what I hate is when they do this, it ends on a weird panel, and there's nothing that says to be continued. So Dynamite kind of dropped the ball on that, but overall, it's a good story. There's a few minor quibbles I have with the dialogue. It bounces around a little bit. There's this weird, like, reference to Bonnie and Clyde that not only does it not fit, it's not appropriate for somebody like Vampirella to use. So it's a little out of character. And there was one other instance of that with Vampirella saying something a little bit more Twitter speak. She says, and also, gross? People don't talk like that in real life. If they do, they're idiots. And Vampirella's not an idiot. She shouldn't be talking like a high school valley girl. Everything leading up to that was intelligently written, and then they tack that on as sort of this, like, oh, the hip with the kids comedy, and it doesn't work. It's very lazy. Other than that, the book is well written. The plot is great. The pacing's good. I see where they're going with it. Cullen Bunn writes good horror. He just needs to kind of leave out some of these Twitter speak millennialisms. They're not funny, they're not cute, and over time they age very, very poorly. This book has a lot of potential to be something people look back at years later. Little things like that really kind of hurt it. So other than that, it's a fun book. The art is pretty solid. I do like overall what they're doing here, especially with the black and white with use of red and yellow. I think it works really, really well. So I'm looking forward to reading issue 3. This was a solid book overall, other than minor stuff. So I'm going to recommend it. If you get a chance to pick it up, do so. This issue won't really fill you in too much on what's going on with issue 1, but I don't think you'll have a problem jumping in and seeing what's going on. So if you find this one on its own and you find it fairly cheap, I would definitely pick it up. It's not really worth $4, but it was an interesting read. So I'm going to pick up issue 3 and we'll see how that goes. But until then, this is a recommend. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Vampirella vs. Reanimator, issue 3. Story by Cullen Bunn and Blackie Shepard, written by Cullen Bunn. Art and colors by Blackie Shepard. Letters by Taylor Esposito, edited by Matt Idelson. I have cover A by Johnny Desjardins and Mohan. And I do like the cover. It's catchy. Nothing really telling you what's going on in the issue, but it's a cool pinup. Now inside we've got, again, black and white with a few colors. This time they've added purple, as Herbert West created a new reagent, a super reagent, and his Lady of Death friend, whose name I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce because I need to buy a vowel. They build this sort of gate thing out of flesh and bone, and they're going to use the reagent to open a portal somewhere. Herbert West has no idea what he's getting into. Meanwhile, Vampirella just decides to resurrect this woman's husband, and thinking that's a good plan, it of course blows up in her face. Herbert West realizes the gravitas of what he's done, but it's a little too late, and things quickly spiral out of control. Okay, there's some forced swearing that was kind of stupid. If you're not going to use the word, don't use the graphics. It's lazy, and it's very, very poor writing. Other than that, I thought the story was actually pretty solid. I don't like the way Vampirella talks. She talks like every other comic book woman, which means no personality, and she uses a lot of modern vernacular. I'm pretty sure they didn't describe someone millennia ago as having a beef with someone else. They said an enemy, or you had some sort of antagonism. They didn't use the word beef. That's modern slang within the last 10 years. It's tiresome, and it's very, very lazy. Also, she talks about the chauvinism of this king guy, whose name I also can't pronounce. And she says, and I'm quoting here, he's awakened, but not totally woke. No. So that kind of hurt the story, in my opinion, quite a bit. Otherwise, it was a good story. Just the dialogue for Vampirella is completely horrible, and and I think very out of touch with how women actually speak that aren't people that were born after 1990. So this is somebody that is very old and would have a much more formalized way of talking, much more professional. She doesn't use modern Twitter slang. So I had issue with that, but it didn't detract from enjoying the issue as much as it probably should have. But after a while, you build a tolerance to some of this garbage. Otherwise, if you don't like that kind of social justice insert, and it's only over the course of a few panels, or the millennials speak, you'll probably enjoy the story. I think the story is pretty well done. It's very well thought out. The pacing's pretty good. In my opinion, the dialogue of Vampirella really hurt the issue to the point where I'll give it a mild recommendation and not a full enthusiastic recommendation like I probably would have otherwise, because a lot goes on in this issue. Parts of it I didn't like. So if they had fixed the dialogue, I probably would have liked it a lot more. That being said, it's still a mild recommendation, but that's going to do it for me. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello, and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Vampirella vs. Reanimator, Issue 4. This is put out by Dynamite Comics, story by Cullen Bunn and Blackie Shepard, written by Cullen Bunn, art and colors by Blackie Shepard, letters by Taylor Esposito, edited by Matt Idelson. I have cover A, which is by Johnny Desjardins and Mohan. Now, as I've said before, this is mostly in black and white with a lot of sketchy light pencils, a lot of use of yellow and red and purple, and it does work pretty well in the book. I can't really complain about the art. I thought it was pretty solid overall. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but Vampirella and Herbert West have to close this gate, and the evil gods go through the gate back to Draculon. Things really don't start out going too well for Vampirella, and her anger toward Herbert West is pretty evident going into the book, and it leaves off on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but this is out of canon, non-series. It doesn't really have that great of an effect on the Vampirella character, but there are some interesting events that transpire here that weren't too bad. It was an okay conclusion to the series. Overall, though, the series was only okay. Last issue was definitely the weakest one. This one was just okay. Now, was it worth $4? Not really. It was pretty well done. It was definitely better than the third issue as far as story goes, but I don't think that I would recommend this for anyone that's not a diehard Vampirella or Reanimator. I thought West got off pretty light for all the things that he did. He didn't really suffer any repercussions. There was no character growth. Vampirella was pretty stagnant too. It was just a kind of a paint by number storyline. I thought it was a decent story. It just didn't really feel very satisfying in the end. So I thought it was okay. If you could find these cheap, I would definitely say pick them up, except for issue 3. Boy, that whole woke thing was really under my skin. But otherwise, it was only okay. But beyond that, I wouldn't pay more than $1 or $2 for them. I don't think it was really that much beyond that, unless you're a diehard fan of either of the main creators on here. I thought the color effects looked really good. Lettering was great. I did like the art style overall. It's not so much that, it was just that the story didn't really come together and have a very exciting ending. It was a little paint by numbers for me. So if you pick it up in trade paperback for a cheap price, maybe then, but otherwise, I wouldn't pay more than $1 or $2 for this entire series. It just really wasn't worth it. It could have been a lot better than it was. Started off pretty strong and got progressively weaker. Unfortunately, issue 3 probably turned some people off. Issue 4 was significantly better. It just didn't round it out as well as it could have, or as exciting as it could have been. I would like to see a sequel with a slightly tighter story, a little more action oriented, maybe a little less on the large scale, world altering kind of epic feel to it, make it a smaller story. Then I think it would have worked a little better, but as is, it's okay. Nothing spectacular. But that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.